rejoining us just in time for the next item on the agenda. It is a one-on-one interview on the topic of incorporating entrepreneurship thinking in education. And remember, you can join us on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn and Instagram. The hashtag to use is FOE2022.
Incorporating entrepreneurship thinking in education with Bello Tongo, CEO of Tongston Entrepreneurship Holdings.
Thanks, Fifi. Any parent would like their child to be prepared for employment as they step into the workforce. Concurrently, businesses would like to know that the potential workforce has been equipped with the right skills to cope with whatever task is at hand. In this conversation, we're going to broaden the scope to include the integration of science, art, and entrepreneurial thinking in education from primary to tertiary levels to build sustainable economic development. Joining me now is Bello Tongo, CEO of Tongston Entrepreneurship Holdings. Bello, there is a focus to educate youth to become entrepreneurs. In your view, what is an age-appropriate time to start?
In our view, also I'm speaking from the perspective of what we do also, the right age is actually 11, 12. And that particular period is when the student or the child is going into the junior secondary school or middle school, depending on the way where you are located. And we think the best period is from this age 11, 12 to the period where they're about to go into college or university. And the reason why this period is most important for this to happen is because it's the period where the child makes transition from childhood to adulthood. So a lot of character formation it's achieved at in that period, basically. And the other reason why this is important is also because it's the period where the child chooses whether they want to become a doctor, an engineer, or whatever it is, when they are going into the university or the college education, level of education. And also this period is the minimum or is the final phase of what is generally accepted as basic education. So it's important that whatever entrepreneurial attitude, skills, or knowledge that the child is going to get has to happen by this period. And then what happens after that, if they decide to go into university or college, is just going to be a build-up of that according to whatever discipline that they choose, whether it's medicine, arts, engineering, law, and etc. So for us, this is the best period to actually achieve that. So that period before the secondary school level can also be used to raise their awareness of such things like money, trade, enterprise, business, work, and etc. So but for the best period, it has to be in this secondary school period, basically from age 11, 12 to 17, 18.
Bello, how should the traditional education system adapt to incorporate entrepreneurship as a focus subject?
Yeah, thank you. This is a very good question, actually, because from what our research shows across the continent of Africa, where we are right now, and also in other parts of the world, entrepreneurship and enterprise skills and knowledge and attitude is basically being developed in isolation of other subjects, unfortunately. And I'm saying unfortunately because there's a better level of doing it, which is what this question is tied to. For us, what we've seen, and I think from my own professional experience is concerned, the best way to achieve it is through something called story-driven project-based learning. So project-based learning is not new in the field of education, it's very well known. And there's something called also story-based learning. So it has to be a combination of these two. Because think about it, when you are building any enterprise, any organization, is very much tied to impacting the lives of people or impacting the lives of organizations or impacting the lives of communities and societies. This is where the story part comes. Because at the end of the day, when the project or the project-based education is implemented and all the tasks are achieved to a final conclusion, it needs to tell a story of change and impact depending on who is the beneficiary, so who is the main customer and the main stakeholders. So this is why I say, or this is why we call it story-driven project-based learning. And this is what we have also practiced and we've seen really working well. And in every industry, in every sector that you see also where projects are being developed, whether it's a bridge or a dam or it's a social project that has to do with healthcare or education or other things, community development, there's always a story part of it, and there's always a project management side of it. And so any level of education, as I said, whether it's at the primary, secondary, even at the tertiary and post-tertiary level, this is the form of education. This is the form of way to craft whatever educational or learning experience that happens within those institutions. This is how it needs to be crafted, and this is how it needs to be pretty much practiced by all the educators within those institutions for it to really achieve the best level or the best quality and standard of entrepreneurial thinking or entrepreneurship education.
Bello, now lastly, should entrepreneurial education be purposely driven and how?
Yes, yeah, I do agree it should be purposefully driven. And by the way, this is also the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is more purposefully driven, so it's embedded within the definition of it. And for that purpose to be also achieved or taken on board by every employee of that enterprise, it needs to also be, just like the previous point that I mentioned, it needs to also be defined. So there are three very important purposes. So there's personal interest, there's professional interest, and there's also public interest. Those are the three purposes that every entrepreneur or every enterprise aims to achieve in life.
Thank you, Bello. Thanks for your time and for your insight. That was Bello Tongo, CEO of Tongston Entrepreneurship Holdings.